presents Chocolate Yoddah Live.
All right, here we go again. A power outage hit while I was regaling you with fascinating information about anger management. And here's the truth. I didn't get angry. I actually thought it was kind of funny. That's my go-to, as a matter of fact. I like to break the pattern. You know, there's this thing that Anthony Robbins talks about. You know, I'm sure he didn't invent it, but he talks about a pattern interrupt. Something you can do to get you out of the state that you're in, state of mind, state of physical stress, etc., etc. One of the easiest things to do is just sing a song or literally make yourself laugh. You know, you don't have to wait till something's funny to make yourself laugh. You can just make yourself laugh. And usually if you make yourself laugh, you wind up actually laughing. I don't know why that works that way, but it seems to. But when the power went out, I was like, well, yeah, this is a thing that happens. You know, during the summer, everyone's firing up their air conditioning. And I mean, it's not summer yet, technically, by calendar, but we've been experiencing summer for a month already. And so, you know, people, including myself, have their air conditioner going. And the power goes out. Happens every year. Happens usually a few times during the summer, right? So I just sort of laughed at the absurdity of it. Here I am, you know, doing my live show and the whole thing, and a power outage hits. So it's like, yeah, of course that should have happened. That's how I looked at it instantly. Like I'm not a hypocrite. I don't talk about anything that I'm not really doing. That you know, I know there's coaches out there that do that. They'll live one way and they'll tell you how to live another way. I just don't do that at all. Whatever my failings and shortcomings are, that's what they are, and I will freely share them with you. That's why I was willing to reveal that I always have rage going on underneath the surface, because I do. And I recognize that, and it's important to recognize that, and it's important to address it. So that when I was talking about getting angry on the road, that was the thing that I was about to share before the power ended the broadcast. And so, or not, well, technically not broadcast, right? It's a podcast. I'm not broadcasting widely. So anyway, geek stuff notwithstanding, when I'm on the road, that's one of the environments where anger can bubble up pretty easily and pretty quickly, because there's a bunch of people doing stuff that I don't like. And one of the pattern interrupts that I came up with is to just remind myself that whatever they just did, I've almost certainly done also, right? I have cut people off. I have sat at a green light for no other reason than absent-mindedness or distraction, or, you know, looking at a butt across the street or something like that, you know. I've done everything that I don't like that other people do on the road. And if you're honest with yourself, you know that that's true for you also. You've done it. You've cut people off. You've waited at a green light. You've waited for a stop sign to turn green, right? All the mistakes that people make on the road, I've made. I know this for a fact, right? And that's one of the ways that I interrupt the pattern of my reaction to what someone else is doing. Oh, they cut me off. I've done that. And then get on my merry way. Now listen, does it work flawlessly? Of course not. Nothing does. But I'm playing the percentages. I'm looking for my batting average. My batting average has improved. I get angry less frequently, and when I do get angry, it's less intensely, and it's for a shorter period of time. And every year that goes by, those numbers improve. And so that's why I walk around happy most of the time, content, grateful, relaxed, calm, cool, and the gang. All right? That's the trick. It's not to pretend that anger should never happen to you. That's ridiculous. It was literally baked into your wiring as a human to respond to certain things with anger. And here's another thing. Here's another reason. And this is just my opinion. I haven't proven this through data, although I think if I search, I'll probably find some studies that confirm this. But if I'm honest with myself, and if you're honest with yourself, I think it would be wise to admit that anger feels good. You feel energized. You feel strong. You feel fearless, right? Because remember, one of our strongest basic wiring, basic programming that we have as humans is fight, flight, or freeze, right? If some huge predator is nearby, it's not uncommon for people to just stand still. Animals do it too. Some faint, like goats, right? There's a certain type of goat that when they get scared, they faint and fall down. That's a survival mechanism because playing dead very often dissuades a predator from trying to kill you. You know, some predators can only eat fresh meat, so if they think that the meat that they want is dead, they're not going near it. That's a survival mechanism that they have to keep them from eating meat that has rotted, right? So that's one of the strategies that human beings have to danger. Freeze, right? Well, flight, that's just a fancy way of saying run away, right? When danger rears its ugly head, you bravely turn your tail and fled, right? That's from a film. If you know what it is, let me know, and I'll be very impressed if you know that quote. So yeah, running away, putting distance between you and the thing that's trying to hurt you, right? As a matter of fact, as someone who's been in martial arts since 1977, I can tell you that your best chance of survival if someone pulls a gun is to run away. Don't listen to those gurus, quote unquote gurus, of self-defense that teach you all these complex movements that you're supposed to do as someone untrained that has adrenaline firing through their system like getting shot out of a cannon, and you know you're supposed to execute this intricate set of moves in order to take someone's gun away. Bullshit. You're going to die. Okay? I have the training to take someone's gun away in several different ways. Some of them hurt tremendously to the person holding the gun. I know how to do that, and I would choose to run away first thing, because flight is a good mechanism for survival, right? But let's talk about fight and how it ties into anger, right? To decide in a dangerous situation that you're going to fight, you have to rev up to do that. So having that adrenaline shoot through you and convert into anger is particularly useful. Okay? So anger feels good. Again, you feel strong. You feel confident. You feel brave. And you are energized for the thing that's making you angry. Now, the problem with it is when you don't do any of those things. When you don't use anger to save your own life, and it's just sitting there in your body, corrosive, because one of the chemical results of anger is cortisol. Cortisol, I believe, is a hormone, and it is essentially battery acid in your bloodstream. It literally weakens your heart. Okay? Stress kills. Stress and anger are the two ways that cortisol is released. So if you're not fighting, if you're not fleeing, if you're not freezing, if you're not doing those things that are geared toward your survival, and you're just sitting with that emotion of anger, it becomes a very corrosive situation. And over time, it will have a negative impact on your health. So that's why anger management was important to me. Because again, in part one of this talk, I mentioned my brain tumor, and I believe it resulted from anger. I don't know that for a fact. That's just what I'm imagining, and that's what I believe, right? And so it was very important to me, once I was finished addressing the physical aspects of the surgery, to address the emotional stuff. And, you know, I wasn't going to be one of those people that was like, oh, I'm going to change my whole life, because I know, or at least I believe, that that's unrealistic. So I wanted to change the most important thing, and it was very obvious to me what that thing was. I had to deal with this issue of anger that I had. So I went for the intake, I read the articles, I went to the class for 3 months, and I'm not saying this to be arrogant. I'm saying this because I know from my experience in that class, I didn't need the class. I understood what anger was, how it happened, and how it was all about how I saw things in the first page of the first article that the doctor gave me. All right? And that's really all it is. It's all about how you think of it. And I'm going to repeat a phrase that hopefully one day you're going to get sick of hearing, because I'm going to repeat it often. It's the quote from Shakespeare. Hamlet said it, "Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Or I think he said, there is nothing good or bad, but there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Incidents in your life are neutral. They have no inherent meaning, for the most part. Again, I'm not going to pretend that something awful that's happening isn't awful. That's not the point of that. It's, how are you holding this thing that happened in your mind? Did you decide that it was a bad thing? Because if you did, it is. Did you decide that it was a good thing? Because if you did, it is. And if you decided it was meaningless, it is. Because you're in control of this. This is the thing about anger management that was the hardest for the other students to understand, and I'm not sure they ever understood it. The conversations that they had in class made it clear to me that they were just not getting that it was them that was making them angry. It wasn't the person, it wasn't the thing, it wasn't the incident. It has nothing to do with that. Like I said, if you drop keys and decide that that shouldn't happen, you're going to get angry. Because of course it should have happened. So instead of this shouldn't have happened, find a better, more productive way to frame the incidents of your life. You know, and by the way, I have coached people that have been severely beaten, people that have been raped, and I know you're not supposed to say that on YouTube, but whatever. But people that have experienced that kind of assault, you know, people who hate their mother, hate their father, hate their siblings, hate their wife, hate their children, whatever it is, you know, it doesn't matter what the situation is. It's all about how you hold it in your mind. And there are more elaborate techniques to managing anger than what I've discussed today. But the basics of all those techniques is the secret about anger management is that it's all you. Once you accept that it all springs from you, how you think, how you see it, what conclusions you reach, what meaning you give it. Once you understand that fully and embrace it and live it, you will see what I have seen, which is that anger happens very rarely, very mildly, and goes away quickly. And that, to me, is perfection. That's the highest aspiration. I will not pretend that I'll never get angry again. I don't think that that's a possibility. You know, maybe there's some Zen Buddhist out there that sits in a room all day and doesn't have bills to pay and doesn't have to worry about feeding himself, that has the luxury of never being angry. I don't know. I don't believe even in that scenario that you'd never get angry, because you can still think about stuff. You know, that third grade teacher that yelled at you, that girl that broke up with you, that whatever thing happened in the past that's lodged in this perfect computer of our brains that we can recall at any time, there's actually a way to manipulate those memories so that they no longer have any negative effect on you. And I know that sounds weird, but that is something that I can coach people through. I've done it for myself, and I learned it. It's not something I invented, but anger management is something that you can do. And you know, I don't even really like the phrase anger management. I'd prefer something more positive, like, calmness management or something like that. Because I just believe words have power. So I'm not anti-war. I'm pro-peace. I'm not anti-hate. I'm pro-love, that kind of stuff, but whatever, just for the sake of easy communication, I'm using anger management. But, there are many, many ways to skin the cat when it comes to anger management. But the most important thing is that you just have to decide. You have to decide, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to inflict harm on myself needlessly just because my mind is undisciplined. And a lot of people don't even know that there's an alternative. That's the thing. Sometimes you can't do better because you don't know better. And that's reasonable. But now that you've heard me say what I've said, you can't pretend you don't know. So if you have an issue with anger, there is a way for you to address it. And I sincerely hope that you do. So that's pretty much it for now. All right. I hope you've enjoyed this. It was kind of interesting that while I was talking about anger management, the power went out and interrupted my agenda. Because that's another way people get angry. Whatever they imagine that their life is going to be, they get really upset if something else happens. Oh, I'm going to drive to work. They didn't plan on the flat tire, so they get angry. But, your agenda is your imagination, and that's in your full control. So again, that's it for now. Peace, love, and granola. Talk to you soon.